All right. If you often feel exhausted in relationships, but cannot point to anything clearly wrong, if you say yes easily and feel resentful later, if you're known as thoughtful, dependable, easy, but rarely feel fully seen, you might be people pleasing. And the difficult part is, it does not feel like a problem. It feels like being good. People pleasing is not about kindness. It is what happens when your nervous system learns that approval equals safety. And once that rule is installed, it runs automatically. So today, we're going to make that rule visible. Welcome to Spark, a place for healing. Here are 10 signs you may be people pleasing without realizing it. Sign 1. You apologize constantly. You apologize for asking questions. You apologize for taking space. You apologize when nothing actually went wrong. The reflex is fast. You smooth tension before it exists. Imagine you are in a meeting. You raise your hand and say, "Sorry, just one quick question." No one looked annoyed. No one objected. Maybe your partner seems distracted. You ask if they are okay. They say they're just tired. And you respond, "Sorry, I didn't mean to overwhelm you." You apologize for checking in. Underneath this pattern is a quiet assumption. My presence might inconvenience someone. Over time, apologizing becomes a way of lowering your volume before anyone asks you to. You begin treating your voice as optional. Your needs are negotiable. Your existence as something that should take up less room. Eventually, you're not apologizing for mistakes. You're apologizing for existing. Sign 2. You feel responsible for other people's moods. If someone is quiet, you scan yourself. If someone is irritated, your chest tightens. If the energy in the room shifts, you feel it immediately and then you move to fix it. You soften your tone, you reassure, you become more agreeable. On the surface, this looks like emotional awareness, but it is often emotional over responsibility. Imagine your partner comes home quiet after work. They say they're just tired, but your mind starts searching. Was it something I said? Are we okay? Did I miss something? You adjust dinner plans. You become lighter in conversation. You offer extra space, carefully, all without being asked. When you feel responsible for everyone's emotional state, you never fully relax. You're always regulating, and regulation is work. Over time, relationships feel heavy, not because you are unloving, but because you are carrying weight that was never fully yours. Sign 3. You say yes too quickly. Someone asks for help. You say yes. Someone suggests a plan. You say yes. Someone needs a favor. You say yes. And only later, alone, you feel tired, or irritated, or quietly resentful. Imagine a friend asks you to host dinner this weekend. Your week has already been full. You have been stretched. You need rest. But before you check your energy, you respond, "Of course, I'd love to." There is no pause, no internal consultation. Your nervous system does not ask, "What do I want?" It asks, "What keeps connection stable?" And the fastest answer is yes. Later that night, you feel tension in your body. You replay the moment. You think, "Why did I say that?" Because for a split second, saying no felt risky. Not dangerous in reality, but uncomfortable. And discomfort has historically meant something, so you avoid it. Over time, this creates a quiet split inside you. Outwardly, you are generous. Inwardly, you feel unseen because the version of you that said yes was not fully honest. And when that pattern repeats for years, you stop trusting your own commitments. You begin wondering whether your yes means desire or fear. That confusion erodes self trust. And self trust is the foundation of secure connection. Sign 4. You over explain your no. When you finally say no, it comes with a paragraph. Instead of I can't make it, you say, I would love to, but this week has been so overwhelming, and I feel terrible. And maybe next time, and I hope you understand. You're not just declining, you are preventing rejection. You are managing perception. You are cushioning impact. But a boundary that requires justification is often a boundary you do not fully believe you are allowed to have. So you compensate with explanation. And over time, people learn something subtle. Your no is negotiable because it arrives wrapped in guilt. Sign 5. You avoid conflict even when it matters. Something bothers you. You tell yourself it is small. You let it go. But you do not actually let it go. Imagine your partner makes a dismissive comment. You feel the sting immediately. Your body reacts. But instead of addressing it, you smile lightly and move on. You tell yourself it is not worth tension. You tell yourself you are being mature. But here is what happens internally. The emotion does not disappear. It compresses, it moves inward. And when emotion is repeatedly compressed, it turns into distance. Weeks later, you feel less open, less affectionate, less engaged. Not because you stopped caring, but because you stopped expressing. Avoiding conflict feels like protecting connection, but it slowly erodes intimacy because intimacy requires reality, and reality includes disagreement. If you cannot safely say, that hurt, you will eventually stop showing up fully. And when that happens, you may feel lonely inside a relationship that technically still exists. Sign 6. You monitor micro changes in tone. You notice everything: a delayed text, a shorter reply, a subtle shift in eye contact. Your body reacts before logic does. You replay conversations. You analyze wording. You search for meaning in small signals. This often develops in environments where emotional shifts carried consequences. You learned that noticing early prevented escalation. But now, your nervous system treats normal variation as threat, and constant scanning is exhausting. It keeps you alert in moments that require calm. Sign 7. You shape shift depending on who you are with. With one person, you are agreeable. With another, more careful. With someone else, overly supportive. Adaptability is healthy, but self erasure is not. Notice what happens after certain interactions. You feel slightly unsure of your own opinion. You think, did I actually mean that? You adjust to maintain comfort. And over time, you become highly acceptable, but internally undefined. When you consistently adapt outwardly, your inner clarity weakens. And without clarity, self trust erodes. Sign 8. You fear being too much, too emotional, too sensitive. too direct, too honest. So you edit yourself. You reduce intensity. You downplay hurt. You minimize needs. Because somewhere in your history, strong emotion threatened connection. So your nervous system learned to contain. But containment comes with a cost. When you consistently reduce your emotional range, you reduce your aliveness. You become easier to handle, but harder to know. Sign 9. Your self-worth is tied to being needed. You feel safest when you are useful, when you are helping, fixing, supporting. If someone relies on you, you feel secure. But when you are simply present, with no problem to solve, you feel slightly restless. Because usefulness became your currency. You earn connection by contributing. So you overfunction. You anticipate. You take on more than necessary. And while others experience you as dependable, you experience yourself as tired. Sign 10. You don't know what you want. When someone asks what you prefer, you hesitate. Anything is fine. And sometimes you mean it. But often you genuinely do not know. This is not indecisiveness. It is disconnection. When you repeatedly override your preferences to maintain harmony, your access to them fades. Imagine choosing a restaurant. You defer. Choosing a vacation. You defer. Choosing how to spend a weekend. You defer. Over time, your internal signal weakens. Desire becomes faint. And eventually, when someone sincerely asks, "What do you want?" you feel blank. Not because you lack depth, but because you trained yourself to prioritize everyone else's comfort over your own clarity. And the quiet grief inside people pleasing is not anger, it is the slow loss of self knowledge. All 10 of these signs point to the same mechanism. Your nervous system learned that connection required adjustment. So you adjust. You adjust your tone, your needs, your boundaries, your emotions. And you became exceptionally skilled at maintaining harmony. But harmony without authenticity creates internal fracture. You stay connected externally, but disconnected internally. Healing does not mean becoming confrontational. It means becoming congruent. It means pausing before you answer, checking your energy before you commit, allowing mild disappointment without panic, saying no without a speech, letting someone regulate their own emotions. Small shifts, repeated consistently. This is how the nervous system updates. People pleasing is not weakness, it is intelligence shaped by survival. At some point, it protected you, but protection that once helped can quietly limit you. You are allowed to be kind without abandoning yourself. You are allowed to be supportive without over functioning. You are allowed to be loved without shrinking. The goal is not to become less caring, it is to become honest inside your care. Because real connection does not grow from self silencing, it grows from presence. And presence begins when you stop apologizing for taking up space. That's it for today. Thanks for spending this time with us. If this resonated, take a moment and comment on what your body is learning right now. Naming it is part of the process. Share, like, and comment, and be part of our community. We're Spark Growth. your companion on the path of healing.